Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 435, and today we're doing battle with Jayce Kennen. And so Jayce Kennen, at its core, looks very similar to the Jinx Kennen decks that have been extremely popular throughout the Heart of the Huntress balance patch, but over the course of the past week or so, people have really done their hardest. They've done everything that they can do to kind of throw their weight at beating the Jinx Kennen deck, and so you started to see a lot of decks including like Pie Toss as a way to 2-for-1 off our 1-cost units. And so this Jayce Kennen deck, while it has a lot of the same ideas that ran out of the Jinx version, it's a Returno Wrench deck at its heart. It's got 12 1-drops in it. It has a lot of these Mecha Yordle generators between the Squeakers and the Arena Promoters, and everything is really tied into that card generation plus discard kind of theme. But where the Jinx deck tends to be very all in, right? You're trying to discard your hand as quickly as possible to get the Jinx on board and start generating those super mega death rockets. This deck says, well, I'm still going to carry some of these really aggressive elements. I'm still going to carry this burn package, but I'm going to be willing to take the game into more of a value plan, a game that can trudge on into turn 6 and turn 7 and still feel pretty comfortable, just as a kind of reaction to everyone aiming to take down these 2-1 units, right? Even across a lot of the decks that we play, we started playing stuff like Frostcoat Cub and Jax Ornn just as a reaction to the Jinx Kennen deck. Having that 2-3 for 2 mana is such a big deal. And this deck is able to play, a little bit slower if your opponent starts throwing Grumble Slugs and Frostcoat Cubs and Pie Tosses at you as a means to take care of all of the 2-1 units. And so the differences that you're going to be seeing out of this, I'm playing Pharaoh's Financier in place of Boom Baboon. Turns out, if you don't want the 7-cost card in your hand, you can just discard it. And so I like that the Financier gives us the card generation, but it's also a card that's extremely good in the late game. It's a card that also works with Jayce, and it could just be discarded if we don't actually want it, right? I know it feels a little painful to have a big 6-cost spell and you just discard it, but if you're looking at the same thing with like a Yordle Squire, right? You don't have the Yordle Squire shield in your hand and say, oh man, I have to discard this. And so it's just kind of like a psychological trick in terms of getting over discarding an expensive card because you know that it has a lot of potential in the late game. Other things that we're doing here, the rest of the 6-cost theme, we're playing Formulas and Shock Blasts, both cards extremely capable in this style of deck. It's very nice to add additional burn to a deck that's already playing burn with the Shock Blast, and then Formula is an ample replacement for cards like Parts Made Whole, except it just never gets awkward since we don't have to actually discard anything to this. But it would be unfair to not call out the biggest addition that this deck gets, the big reason to looking to go towards Jayce, and that's going to be the Epic SCRAPTRAPTION. This is a fantastically powerful card that we see tons of coming out of the Heimerdinger Jayce deck. If you do manage to just have the 6 mana on turn 3, you can just put that gigantic 6/6 Brash onto the board and really get to town in terms of your opponent needing to invest 2 and 3 cards to get it removed from the game. And it's also a card that if you do manage to flip a Jayce, generating the 2 SCRAPTRAPTIONs is a very powerful ability. Spending 7 mana and putting 2 7/7s onto the board is a very fantastic usage of your mana. And so that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. But before the battles begin, you know what we got to do? We got to come in and pay that pay-to-win price. And let's see. Let's find us a good old common here. Forge Chief. Forge Chief. Look at the cannons on the Forge Chief. Fucking ready to hit the gym and lift some weights. But all right, good stuff. Let's jump on in. And so yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm pretty solidified in the place I want to take the lineup. I'm going to be playing our version of Aatrox Vayne. I'm going to be playing Jax Ornn. Both of those are teched a little bit towards the Jinx Kennen matchup. And then I'm either going to play Jinx Kennen, as we are about to face here, or I'm very interested in what happens with this Jayce deck in terms of do we feel comfortable with this playing against Jinx Kennen, and does it feel stronger, or do we really need to just kind of hone in on being as aggressive as we can? But as we are here in the kind of mirror match, I'm going to hang on to the 1-drop, and then I want to find some discardable stuff. We didn't find it, really hoping to find a Returno Wrench, and there's the Returno Wrench, turns up just in time. And so I'm going to lead off with the Forge Chief. Opponent kept 3 cards in hand, so I'm going to assume that they're either going to have a Pie Toss or a unit, but in that strange case, in that wonderful event to where they just don't actually have a unit, we're going to be feeling pretty good with the way the board is shaping up there, getting the extra mana off of the Forge Chief. Now, as far as this goes, I want to see how aggressive opponent's going to get onto this board. If he's going to just, say, play Kennen and attack, then I'm willing to stop. Taking 4 damage, though, is a little bit much, and so I'll start to deploy our units. I was hoping if we could just get out of this turn with only taking 2, right, only taking damage from the Kennen, then I would have felt pretty good about just banking and then playing a 6-mana Scraptraption next turn. But we can't just take too much damage at this point. All right, let's send in an attack. I'd like to get the wrench back in hand and then discard the wrench to the urchin. See if we can't find another play without having to discard a real card. And a Reggie. We can drop Reggie on the board now. We can play any of our 6-cost spells next turn without losing out on... or we'll have the 6 mana next turn to be able to play any of our spells. So with these, I think we just want to take the Shock Blast. It's a little too early for Treasured Trash, and I like the idea of Eclectic Collection coming up with our style of decks, but this isn't a matchup to where it's going to be super relevant, and so Shock Blast just has so much potential in this space.
Wind and thunder.
You should have a lot of trouble dealing with this Scraptraption. I feel pretty good about getting it on board now. It's a bit of a bummer with our next turn only having 5 mana. It's going to be fairly awkward in terms of what we can actually get on the board. But, like, even realistically, just taking a 3-bank out of next turn doesn't feel horrible. But I think we do want to get the Scraptraption on board. We could have looked to just taken a 3-bank and then on this turn played a formula into another card, but... that seems a little meh to me. Now, very good Arena Promoter. Remember that this makes your dudes cost 1 less. So if we do find a 2-cost one in here, we should be able to play it for 1 mana. Doesn't turn up. I'm going to take the Shadow Tech Walker since it's capable of blocking this elusive out here. And it's still reasonably cheap.
Got this from a side quest.
Alright, nothing can block the Scraptraption though. And we're getting really close to just lethaling him, right? When you see that big 6 damage hit come in, we've got 6 damage from Shock Blast, 6 damage from Blowbacks. If we can just manage to get 12 mana, or I'm sorry, not 12 mana, like 1,000,000 mana, but we do have the burn if we can really drag this game on. Here if he's gonna open. I was really excited to get to drop a Shadow Tech Walker. Didn't quite come together. I think we could formula. I just don't think we even need formula at this point. I'm looking to discard formula and this other blowback. Maybe that's a little too greedy. We can discard, like we're 100% gonna blowback here. Maybe we just discard a Shock Blast and a blowback. Next turn, like we're gonna add the Shadow Tech Walker, then we're gonna Electro Harpoon the remaining elusive. I think this is okay. As long as we keep this, you know, this access to 3 damage. If we hit for 6 with the Scrap Trap, that's going to be enough to lethal. Ooh, oh, is that because we're block? I'm curious if I should have not made that block with the Scrap Trap, in the sense that if opponent was able to kill the Scrap Trap in combat, we're missing out on a lot of opportunities for damage here. So, that's tough. They're looking pretty good though. Like even just shock blasting next turn is gonna feel pretty nice, hitting the Jinx and the Clockling. I have to imagine opponent will really struggle to flip this Jinx, although that would be quite a bummer for us if they say like double blowback to flip the Jinx or something. Uh-oh, cards are coming into the middle. Squeeze them cheeks, fellas. Shit's about to get real. It's about to get real. One blowback. Okay. So yeah, I'd assume our scrap trap's just not going to deal any damage here, but we're looking pretty strong. And if he wants to kill off the scrap trap, he's going to have to add or hold back onto some mana. I think we just continue adding units.
Looking for a hero for my hero. I'm ready. Oh, take it, flyer.
So this will be clearing out his whole board. He does have the block on the scrap trap with the Fury Horn Crasher, but I'm pretty convinced he has a Mystic Shot in his hand, so I don't think that that was going to be too crazy of a turn there.
Party member down.
So looking pretty good. Kind of prefer to have that one of those shock blasts over this formula, though, huh? Would prefer it. Are we just dead? We better formula, see if we can't draw a burn spell. Let's leave his Forge Chief on the board. It's got the Returno Wrench on it, so if he's got a big blowback or something in hand, I'd like to be protected. Now I'm looking to Zonite Urchin.
Some rock got me good.
Got him on board, nice with the Mystic Shot. I'm looking to Electro Harpoon, one of these units that's on the board, and then we're going to try and get the Scraptraption in. I want to hang on to the Tiny Spear, though, as that's going to be a way to punch in an additional damage next turn. So I think we're okay. I think we're okay. Die to like well, even if he has, say, Mystic Shot, no, we'll be dead then. We don't have the blowback. Will fix that problem. Okay. Gotta hold on to the blowback, though. So if he chains burn spells at our face, we can get our blowback further to the left. Ooh, and he top decked it. Wow. We top decked it as well, though. Alright, GG. That was tough. I think we probably should have won that game a turn earlier. Getting, I need a little bit more practice with this to really kind of get the feel for, what spells to hold on to in that space. But having a Shock Blast on the opposing turn that previous round would have just been so much better than having the improvise. Having the formula. My bad. Alright. Into Illaoi Swain. Reasonable enough start. We got some discard stuff happening in here. I have to worry in this match about them starting off with Make It Rains and such. And so it is kind of nice that the Scraptraption can come through and
Got this from a side quest.
it can come through and just be a big dude, Alright, well, we pick up the Returno Wrench, see what's going to come at us, see if it's going to be a Make It Rain or a Heavy Metal. Not certain which one I would prefer here. It's the Make It Rain. Okay. Well, at least that we get a lot of free discards off this Returno Wrench. That's at least pretty valuable for what we're trying to do. Not bad, not bad.
Ah, a beautiful day for sailing. Let's get to work. To the sea. Do you feel her presence? Do you hear her voice?
Wouldn't do nothing. Idiots.
Alright. Fairly awkward. but I think this is going okay.
It's been a joy.
Gonna be a real question how we start dropping these scrap traps. The opposing deck does have the ability to
Coming through.
has the ability to like disintegrate them,
Keep it up. Get out.
but
We
it's
move
by no
against
means the
fear,
safest way to be
against
going
doubt.
about this stuff. I really want to just get the 6/6 on the board next turn. Let's do this. Let's just go ahead and drop in a Harpoon. Take the 3 bank into the next round. If Illaoi opens, it's not that big of a deal. And now we'll be in a space to where we can play a 7 mana Scrap Trap next turn, and then we can play a 6 mana one 2 turns from now.
Oh, I've never met anyone like you.
Do we just want to go for the 6/6 and take one of these little units off the board? I mean, I'm not particularly impressed by this stuff, but if he does manage to have a disintegrate, and this is kind of painful, and so I think what we're going to look to do here is if he like pirouettes, whatever, the only card I think I'm really concerned about is going to be disintegrate, and so I'll block the Illaoi if that's where it looks like this is going to be going. I don't care to take 7, that's not a big deal. Then we have the potential for lethal next turn. I mean, maybe we just take all of this damage, right? And then next turn we Electro Harpoon Illaoi down to 2 health, and then we can attack with 2 Scrap Traps. Just keep ourselves completely protected from Disintegrate and Scorched Earth. And then if he wants to block him, he has to play stuff like Swain. That doesn't sound incredible. All right, zing him to 10. It's kind of lame, dude. Kind of lame. Go ahead. I'll go ahead and put that out there just so you know. Got to get the additional unit on board, though. I was kind of considering if we want to actually drop a Forge Chief here. I don't think I'm impressed with that. Uh-oh. That's not good. That's not a thing you want to be seeing. Just the make it rain out of the woodwork. It's not really doing anything. Nox and Fervor. Okay.
Oh no!
Still reasonably healthy. Ooh, and a formula. Nice draw.
It is good to hear again the mother serpent in your voice. Illaoi, it has been too long.
Remember, we're the ones who make progress happen.
So we'll see how this lines up. I mean, we still have this space to where
Test yourself.
we can try and get the lethal off of the Scrap Trap. Where do we stand in terms of dying, right? It's always an important question to ask yourself. But I mean, if we're gonna be real, all right, let's stop and be real for a second. On the previous turn, he had both Make It Rain and Pirouette, and at no point did he play a Disintegrate. And so if he set up the Scorched Earth, our unit already has damage, so we can't do anything about that. But I don't think we have to worry about our Scrap Trap getting in a bad block here. I think we can just kind of block in this space. Maybe...
Not on my work site, Bob.
bring one of these. I mean, we don't have to block with the Scrap Trap, but how's it... Like, this deck usually plays a maximum of 1 Nox and Fervor. I guess if we end up blocking the Sea's Voice, he could have double heavy metal. I'm just going to try and win this with an open attack next turn. There's no combat tricks that'll protect this Illaoi, and so... I guess the big thing to worry about there as well would be like a Tentacle Slam, right? So if we block the 3/3 and then he Tentacle Slams... Oh, shit. Hang on. Oh, he still can't. Uh-oh. Oh, he is playing multiple Nox and Fervors. Wow. Haven't seen that in a long time. But, I kind of want to redo how we did those blocks. I realized at the end that we didn't... we played them... I got in my head that's like we needed to play the Mystic Shot because we were going to overbank mana. It wasn't that super important, but that was what was in my head. And I think we should have put the Forge thing in front of his Tentacle guy. And then we should have put Illaoi in front of a 2-power unit. So Illaoi would have still had 5 health. So if he does have Tentacle Smash, Illaoi's going to survive. If he has double heavy metal, it's going to survive there as well. Just a lot better options coming through that. Because then when we got to the next turn, it was like, oh fuck, I can't even attack through because we didn't put the damage onto the sea monster or whatever it's called. And so I all around just don't like how we played that game. Alright, but into this one, I'm fine to take it a little slow. Now that we picked up a Zonite Urchin, though, I'm gonna turn up the Nos, hit the Nos just a little bit, you know. If he plays Jax this turn, he's terrible. If he adds a 1/3, then we can just kind of stop and slow down. But getting to remove Jax here feels pretty good. And if he doesn't block with Jax, we get a ton of damage and still have Mystic Shot. So we're pretty happy across the board. And a Returno Drench, just the absolute perfect draw here. So I don't want to just run our Mystic Shot directly into this Jax. It's just too much of a problem if he has the 1-mana Cultist Combat trick, or if he has another Jax in his hand for the Forge. I want to be attacking this Jax while we're physically attacking at him, as it makes it a little bit more challenging to protect him in that sense. It seems big picking up the Scraptraption, but I want to give it a little bit of time. I like adding in Smash and Dash here. I guess the block we could have looked to make that turn, I kind of let slip by, was we could have blocked with the Zonite Urchin as a means to as a means to try and get this Returno Wrench back in our hand. Alright. See ya, Smash and Dash. You fought hard. You fought valiantly. We baited a little bit out of his hand. Wasn't that impressive, but
weapon?
not horrible. Alright, not a terrible round. Again, like having this 5-mana spot with Arena Promoter can be a pretty big deal. If we get the Promoter and then we hit a 2-cost unit that we get to play for 1 mana, it's just a fantastic open for the next turn. I don't think we're going to get to mess with it, though. Let's just add in the big boy, right? These blocks right now aren't very good.
Old faithful.
Jax is back. This is kind of interesting, as units all suck. The upside to this turn is he can't currently block the Scrap Trap, although it's not that big of a deal for him to be able to get the bonus health to throw a block in front of it. But I don't think we want to give him a chance to act. And then we can really look to add in like Reggies and add in the additional bros here. See where we get in terms of interactivity for the next turn. I don't want to just be adding dudes to the board. That sounds like a fantastic way to just get killed by a Varus. right, Reggie number 1, what you got? Here's the Hex Obliterator. That's the one that we're kind of looking for.
I help when I can.
I'll try and blow up the unit and get the equipment removed. As far as these other ones go, Sputtering Song Spinner is probably the safer choice. I don't think we're ever going to play Treasured Trash. And it does kind of work with some of our themes here as well. If we want to say, generate the 3 spells and then discard 1 to Squeaker. It's not super awesome, but you have a touch of potential there.
Anyone seen any sheep around here? I lost mine.
Just got to fix him 5,000, 2 cards. I think we're pretty safe. He should have a pretty tough time trying to lethal us here.
You and you, switch. Weapon roulette. I hate traffic.
The Jax is big, huh? Maybe we just let this go. Jax isn't the unit we currently care about. I mean, I'm thinking we can play a Song Spinner if we want, but let's just take the damage this round. So what do we got? A Returno Wrench and an Urchin. That's pretty good.
The sun rock got me good.
Shock Blast, getting kind of close to that burn plan now. So I'm looking, my thought and idea here is to just open attack. Like, we'll play Squeaker to get the unit on board. We're going to open attack. We'll wait until we're actually in combat. Because there's, like, he has to probably just be blocking Squeaker like 100% of the time, but we do have the opportunities to get the bonus stats out of him. But I mean, the Trumpet Techer with a 6 cost spell also pretty nice. Look at all those stats at the board. Yum yum. That's the way you're supposed to say this stuff, right? I think that's it. I think that's the way. So what's going on? He picks up Varus. Okay. If he has some kind of weird hand to where he has a bunch of burn spells, we can look to just Hex Obliterate one of these units off of the board, or if we think we're going to be, within burn range, we do have Shock Blast. So as this combat kind of ends, we could probably find a way to Shock Blast down one of his champions.
Don't stand against us.
All kinds of spells come into the middle, though. You gotta feel a little bit safer when you see all these spells rolling through. Right? He's just not gonna have any cards in hand. So he's got 2 mana behind. That's gonna be exactly enough to play the Spell Shield. He's already played it once, though, so I don't think we ultimately have to worry about it too much. I'm looking at that as being, like, pretty dangerous, though. I think... Well... I mean, if we get into this next turn, and then still just have to cast spells, like, that's not gonna cut it. So maybe we'll drop the Hex Obliterator. I don't feel like this is ultimately going to be too successful. It's just too easy for him to have a combat trick. But it might leave us in a space to where we can blow up one of his champions next turn with a Shock Blast, or if we draw a Mystic Shot, or if we get into combat and hit something off the Song Spinner. Now, the thing that was ultimately really painful about this is that he had the Spell Shield thing, and so I was hoping to just have Jax down to like 1 health, but it's not the spot we're in anymore. You open him, bro? I want a Shock Blast. I want a Shock Blast so good. I want a Shock Blast so good. So what do we got? Guiding Touch heals more than Zonite Urchin. Tag Out, I'm not going to have the mana for. But Drop the Bomb, we're not going to be able to cast. And then the last one, not going to do it. Let's double check on Tag Out, right? Costs 3 mana. Okay. That's tough. Like, the other option that we could have had with that turn would have been to... We could have Shock Blast before combat, and so we could have tried to take 2 of his blockers away, but we would have still been short of a lethal in that space. So we would have been able to maintain some of our units. Well, I guess one of the perks to doing that would be it pushes his blocks down to our stronger units, so for them to try and prevent more damage. But I think we still would have ended up being short. All right, on to the next one. The Jayce mirror match, if you will. We're both playing essentially the exact same deck, right? Not quite. First time we've even seen Jayce today, though. Kind of sucks to go through all these games and not see the namesake turn up.
Let's get to work.
So I'm just gonna blast a bunch of dudes in here. It's a bait to me to be like, oh, I can get this 1 mana off of the Forge Chief. They just have stuff like Mystic Shot way too frequently, and it just never feels worth it. Trading with Reggie's okay. We should still be blasting in for a bunch of damage on the round.
Looking for a hero for my hero.
Gear up.
I hate traffic.
Look at them aggros go. Yordle Squire doing his thing. That's what aggro's all about. And let's just bank. Need a value style play. Scrap Trap it is. I mean, if we play the Scrap Trap and then he Scrap Traps, they're both the same size. And if we play Scrap Trap and then he Vengeances, that's just a very big tempo gain for us, I think. And so, feels reasonable. He's got his own. He has to block ours. He can't just take 7.
Ready, Hammer?
Oh, I saw the round end thing just like pass through, and I was like, "Holy fuck! We just hit for like we just hit for 1 million. What's opponent doing?" But that's not what happened.
Order, entropy, a never-ending cycle.
And the Donger.
I have mastered the rain, lightning, and cloud styles.
So this will take him to 9. We've got 5 burn in hand. We're getting pretty close. Pretty close. Got Jason Blowback. Now that we picked up Blowback, I don't think we want to play these spears.
No backing down.
Very close to the lethal, though. I mean, we've got 8 burn in hand at this point. If we get 1 unit in, or if we get the impact off of Kennen, pretty close with just what we have. Gotta like that.
Party member down.
We can be the one to do Jayce stuff, right? Let's drop this Jayce and start doing double shock blasts, right? That's what it's all about. Got 10 mana. Ooh, he stays up at 6.
It's an awesome day for progress.
Let's see. This has to just like soak up a Vengeance or soak up a
I fight for a brighter tomorrow.
Hex Obliterator, and then I mean we're still looking pretty good. That's not good though. Piercing Darkness is the bad one. Fuck. Do not like seeing that.
Round and round it goes.
Is this the way we want to do this? I mean, how close are we now? Like, it's 3, 6, 7, 8, like 9 with a Returno wrench. I think we just have to leave the donger up and send everything to the face. Oh, that piercing darkness was pretty soul crushing though.
The sun got me good.
Now what are we at now? We got 3, 6, 7, 8. Need to come up with 2 damage. We got 1 point off the Yordle Squire on the board. Get that Returno wrench in. Alright, burn spells. See if we can let's see if we can't clear out our units so they don't get hit by piercing darknesses anymore. Right? Well, we got enough burn now. Watch the fun happen. We're going to drop these slow spells. When we go into the next turn, I want to be able to just cast stuff and win. I don't want to have to deal with playing a spell and then opponent reacting and playing a spell and opponent reacting. We don't want them to just be like, herder, I just played I just played Production Surge and now you're going to take 40. So Battle Fury. That's another reason. I dig it. I dig it. See, that's that nonsense you don't want to be. You don't want to be playing slow spells into. Everything's fast speed, so we should be good to go. Look at that 19 coming in. I dig it. I like what you're about, Heimerdinger. What? 5 to the nugget. Opponents at 4. Should be enough to save the day. GG. Oof. That's the good stuff right there, though. I think that's... I'm trying to think if I want to say that that's the kind of space to where... you know, Jayce is just better than Jinx. At the end of the day, they cost the same amount of mana and he just put a card in our hand, but we didn't have to just like completely spew our hand, right? We didn't have to say, okay, my hand's empty now, so I can actually put this Jinx on the board. And just a lot more longevity in terms of what your cards are able to do. Alright, shitty start. Up against Gnar Shyvana. Not entirely certain what we're about to get ourselves into, but hung onto a wrench. Wanted to find one of our 12 1-drops. Nothing turned up. Gotta have something good turn up soon. Nothing turned up, so it's on you, Reg. So what's this deck gonna be doing? I'm leaning towards just taking Hex Obliterator. It should be capable of like killing a Shyvana, right? It can kill Shyvana through a combat trick.
I'm your man.
So if he's gonna be playing a real value-heavy kind of game, or I should say a curve kind of game, then the Hex Obliterator is probably gonna be our best bet. It's not really doing anything. What the fuck is this stuff? Is this this has to be a Saurion a Saurion Warden of the Tribes deck. Alright, well, big boy activated. Get in there, son. Alright, manageable, I guess.
graphic.
Why is he attacking with everything? But we'll try and take down the Gnar. I'm not certain what combat trick this is. It's probably Fury of the North, right? Fury of the North makes a bit of sense. Well, I guess he could just be hooking the Scrap Trap out of combat so that Gnar can attack more freely. But, okay. I don't understand this Pouty Poro attack, though. Doesn't do anything. Alright, not terrible. Got a lot of the board cleared out. Do have to worry about Warden of the Tribes. We just have no answer to him whatsoever, but our opponent's early aggression has been handled. And an arena promoter. If we can ever hit this'll this'll be nice, but if we hit a 2-drop off of the promoter, there we go. The Bouncer and Bolt and the Mecha Forcer. Take the Bouncer and Bolt just to be interactive. But I was looking to play the 1-cost card and then Electro Harpoon away this Fleet Feather Tracker. Pokey, pokey. Oh, no, we need to play Bouncer first. Alright, well, we'll try our damnedest to take Gnar down, I guess. He already dealt the damage to face, so he's going to flip next turn. That was not how those mathematics were supposed to go. I neglected to remember that he was going to get the bonus stats off of the Darken thing. Might still be okay. I mean, he's a turn away from Warden of the Tribes, and we have 3 burn in hand, 2 wrenches. Pretty close. I mean, we could try and say that we just did it that way so that so that our Hex Obliterator would be dealing enough damage to take the Gnar down. I'm just curious if we ever win the game with like combat the rest of the way. This is just like such a greedy Hex Obliterator onto the Gnar. I think that we just want to be getting units on board here. Let's do this. Let's squeak. Probably just want the cheapest one. The Mecha Forcer is pretty good as the cheapest one anyways, since it can boost our Jayce. We're going to take like 8 on the round. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we can do. So close with all these impacts. Do we ever want to pick up Quick Attack? No, we can't want that.
There's nothing a little
We can't want that. We gotta just try and get this Gnar off the board. So what I'm looking to do now, I want to play Formula so that we get to flip our Jayce, and then we're gonna blow back and put the double Returno Wrenches onto the board. This gets us really close to being able to burn out the opponent. Now, again, we do have to worry about something like Warden of the Tribes here, but this gets us really close to that lethal.
Powering up.
Nice little 7-piece nugget coming through. 6-piece nugget. If he had Warden of the Tribes, he would have just played it there, right? Gotta just get all those stats. It makes our attacks not do anything. And this does bring up one of the kind of interesting things with Jayce, in the sense that if we're just playing Jinx, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jinx would be fairly okay. Like, these games would be pacing out a little bit differently to where we don't just have as much mana spent on these expensive spells. But it would also be in kind of a space to where now we have, like, acceleration gates, which are, you know, realistically very powerful cards in the face of... like dropping double Forge Chief Yordle Squire at the end of the game. This is so weird to me. Like, I'm curious what his hand involved to where he's playing Warden of the Tribes now. So what's this? Is it just exactly lethal? We have the Jayce in front of the Mother, taking 7. Okay, GG. I'm curious how that would have gone had we not just messed up the spell onto Gnar. Right, the way that we intended to have that Gnar turn go was that we were going to Electro Harpoon Gnar and then hook Gnar with the 3-attack Challenger, and then I can't do basic math, and so the people that have been with us for a long time know exactly how bad I am at doing math, and so it's a struggle for me. I have a graduate degree in school, so I'm not a moron, but I definitely don't have a graduate degree in math. But alright, up against this stupid fucking deck. Let's see how this goes. This is going to be our last one. We're getting pretty close to that hour mark. I think this is a reasonable enough start. It's okay to just cycle a card at the beginning of the game. With the Zonite Urchin, you don't have to get value out of the Urchin 100% of the time. And the question here, though, is do we want to get rid of the Scrap Trap or the Squeaker? Because I will go for the value next turn with Urchin Kennen. I just don't think the Squeaker ever really... It does stuff, sure, but maybe having the opportunity to get the big stats out of the Scrap Trap. I just kind of envision, as we get into like turn 4, turn 5, we're going to prefer it. Although, as we do have these starts to where we just spend all of our mana on units, it's not nearly as compelling. So I'm more than happy to take this block. This is not a good attack by any stretch of the means. Now we know he can't hate spike us, so that's off the table. And now he just blocked a worse unit, right? We have the potential to deal damage with Forge Chief this turn, and so all around terrible attack from the opponent. I'm not going to be able to punish him for it, but as you, the viewer, you can learn. Like, what do you gain out of attacking with that unit, right? I'll stop and wait for your answer. If you answered nothing, you'd be spot on. But there's just so many things out of the opposing deck, like Vaults of Helya. You know, having a 1-cost unit on the board is better than having no units on the board, and it just the best case scenario for the opponent right there is he does 2 points of irrelevant damage, and the worst case scenario is he doesn't get to block Forge Chief, he doesn't get to play hate spikes. Like, this, everything just sounds incredibly poor in terms of what you get out of that attack. Alright, so we've emptied out the board here. We're going to play Jayce and go Challenger. You know, kind of the same spot. He wants to play Vaults of Helya this turn. If he does play the Vaults, he's just going to get domed. And then if he wants to come in and add a unit, like if he wants to play Rock Bear Shepherd as a blocker in front of our 2/1s, then we have the ways to get it off of the board.
I will not show mercy. I will not grant it.
It's kind of interesting. Like, I think I'm just going to go wide with the 3 units, but...
The sun rock got me good.
Interesting spot.
Mortals beware!
Looking for a hero for my hero.
Hey, Rosa.
I just
got
go
some new
max
tweaks
damage.
to the power circuitry.
Great. We're running into heat issues. What you got?
In comes the Nasus.
So shiny, it's gotta be way
So,
strong.
I mean, this is going to be our final round of damage. I don't suspect we're going to get the lethal here too frequently, but ideally, we can draw a burn spell before the game's just over with, and so it would be delightful. Got the kill. GG. Well played. Yeah, that's such a dumb deck. Such a dumb deck. But alright, not a bad set of battles. We could pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. And so, in terms of the deck list itself, and seeing the deck out on runeterra.ar and on Legna's site, LoR Stats, there's a lot of variety that's happening in here. A lot of people aren't playing Forge Chief. A lot of people are playing Pytosses. Most people are playing Boom Baboons in place of Pharaoh's Fancier. And I can see arguments for all of that stuff, but I've actually been exceptionally happy with the way that these cards have kind of come together in terms of playing the Forge Chief and then having the extra mana to play off the rest of these spells. And then that idea that we have that, you know, you can put an expensive spell in your hand with the Fancier and then just discard it. And so you do run into some spots to where, you know, you can't hook a unit out of combat with the Boom Baboon or the Flame Chompers. You can't have the Flame Chompers on board to land a Returno Wrench on, so you don't just have to discard it to the Nether. But at the end of the day, like the huge power spike that you get out of the Fancier is incredibly powerful and worth it, as to where in a lot of games you run into with a Boom Baboon, it just doesn't do anything. And so the next thing that I really like with a lot of the aspects of this are you have so much more late game, right? If we're, say, playing a game to where we, you know, play a 1-drop into a 1-drop and then opponent makes it rain and kills 2 of them, and then we play a unit next turn and discard a Returno Wrench and opponent hits it with a heavy metal. With the Jinx version, that game's just done, right? You're done playing that game. You finished it. You might as well just queue up into the next one. But with this, while things aren't great, you do still have opportunities to really just make high-powered plays that can kind of crawl you out of that stuff. And so I think the kind of 2 most telling things out of playing this style of list as opposed to playing with the Jinx one are and say that like Warden of the Tribes game, to where at the end of the game we had 3 2/1s in our hand along with the it's not Electro Harpoon, it's Acceleration Gate, and being able to turn all of those small units into 4-power attackers. That's definitely like a very real thing that we can be pulling off in terms of getting a high-powered attack in the late game. But I think even more so the thing is kind of like with, I forget who we were playing. I think it was against Heimerdinger Jayce, as to where you don't just have to flood out the entirety of your hand and then hope that your champion can do something, right? It's so common in those style of games to where you flood out your entire hand, you play Jinx, you play your Death Rocket, and the opponent's like, cool, here's a Vengeance. And now you have absolutely nothing in your hand, and you're just back to playing off the top of your deck. And so that's not how it feels in any way, shape, or form with Jayce. You can just play Jayce on turn 4, and if your opponent kills it, you go, okay. But like so much of your game plan is tied into Jinx winning the game that if you run into those spots to where you play her and she just gets killed, it feels fantastically terrible. It's like you've already discarded so much shit just to get your Jinx to flip and then just to have her get removed. It feels so incredibly bad. And so I think there's definitely something to this list here in the addition of Jayce, just slowing things down a little bit, getting access to the additional burn and the shock blast. I think I really kind of like the space that this deck is going in. So don't be surprised if we turn up with the open with this. I still got to get some more practice games in. I want to get 20 or 30 games in with this before I really make a decision there. But you know, it seems like it's definitely a potential as a winner coming into that format. Nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.